Welcome to Focus Friday. And if you've not got your Christmas rota out yet, then this is the episode for you, with 7 steps that can help you get it done. I've also got a quick reference sheet that you can download if you need to underneath the video. A couple of years ago, I really had a Christmas from, well, it wasn't good. It was not good. And when I thought back, it was because I didn't get the rota out till about November. I think there was lots going on at work, super busy, always something else to be done. And suddenly it was November by the time I got a chance to think about and concentrate and create the rota and get it out. But boy, did I know about that by the time it got to Christmas Eve. Because to be truthful, it started Christmas Eve and it went all the way through the holiday period, one thing after another. And New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, I was at work 6 a.m. till about 10:30 at night, covering shifts because of one thing and another. And the trouble is, I'm sure a lot of you will have had that experience, but come January, you're like, oh, thank goodness that's over for another year. And then we forget about it. And next year comes and potentially we have a repeat. These 7 steps, I'm hoping, will help you to avoid that. So let's get going. Step number 1 is basically first to decide that you're going to do the rota and to give yourself a time frame for getting it out. I suggest 3 weeks for completion because that's long enough to get it done, but short enough for you to keep the momentum. So get the date in your diary or your calendar, however you record things, and then plot back and clear out a number of blocked periods to give you time to actually create it. Non-negotiable, you block them out, you're not going to fill them with anything else. Once you've done that, step 2 is to communicate this with your staff. Give them the date. That will settle down any sort of, is the rota coming out? When's it getting done? I don't know. I can't plan. Because it's understandable. Everybody, by the time it gets to October and people's thoughts are Christmas, are wanting to know, can I book this? Can I do that? Am I going to the family? Do I need to book? Do I need to order my turkey? Real basic life decisions that revolve around Christmas that, you know, in fairness, they can't make until they know what they're doing from a work point of view. So once you put the notice out in the staff room, I would suggest that you offer them different shift patterns. Obviously, every service is different, every care home is different, but maybe you normally work 12-hour shifts and the key days you might want to do split, you know, you might want to do earlys and lates, or you might want to give them that opportunity. Do you want a half day early, a half day late, or a full long 12-hour over one of the holiday periods because you'd rather the other one totally off? And make it clear in your poster or your sheet, whatever you put up, that this is a request, that what they're writing is a request. It's clearly not, you can't guarantee it until you know what everybody's requests are. But here's the thing, I often find if you've given it out early enough and staff are putting them up in view of everyone else, that the chances are they will start to talk to each other and they're not unreasonable, and they'll start to think, well, everybody wants Christmas morning off, so you know, there's no point me doing that. I'll start to think of, or they might discuss it with other people. So it's very, very worth getting that out and giving it a full week for them to get their, as I said, requests, their ideal requests out. Step 3, same time, is to start asking the relatives for their plans. Because it's helpful if you know how many of your residents, particularly in a care home, but if you're doing home care as well, how many residents are going to be with family on that day? Because it might be that you do not need as many staff during the middle of the day if you're a care home, for instance, but you might actually could do with more staff first thing in the morning because you've got 10 or 12 residents that need help to get up and get dressed and get ready and get collected by family. And equally, you might need more staff later on the Christmas day when everybody's coming back sort of all at the same time and they're tired and they want to be settled into bed earlier because they've had a busy day. So that does help, because you might decide, if you know you've got a lot of residents going out, or a lot of your residents that you look after, a lot of the people you look after in home care that aren't actually going to need care during the middle of the day, then you can obviously split the shifts and have more in the morning, more and less in the middle of the day. So it's definitely worth factoring that into your plan. Step 4 is to review and sort and draft the rota. So this is where your blocked periods in your diary come into play. You've got their requests, shall we call them. You hopefully got a copy of last year's Christmas rota, so you can start to cross-reference and not, you know, ideally not give the same people the same time off as they had last year, if that's avoidable, because, you know, if you end up giving everybody Christmas off and they had the same people had Christmas off the year before, then that's all, you know, potentially a bone of contention. So definitely, if you can look at last year's rota, you look at your requests and then you plot. And I don't need to tell you, and I know I don't need to tell you how to do a rota, but, you know, start with the key days and then work out from there. Once it's fully covered, you will then know what gaps you have. And we live in the real world, in the care sector, particularly at the moment. We know that staffing isn't as ideal as it could be. So you may well have backup plans from bank staff, or you may be in a situation where you're using agency. If that's the case, at this point, and although it may seem really super early, I would make the call to the agencies that you use if you think you're going to need agency, and get that request booked in. And top tip, personally, I'd do it myself, because I think if you're the manager and you're ringing the agency direct and you're speaking to perhaps their branch manager, then you're creating that bit of a rapport, and hopefully you're first in with your requests, and they are going to look at you as a priority over the care homes that maybe get the requests in 2 weeks before Christmas. So it may sound super easy early, but it's way easier to book them and then not need them than to not book them and then need them at the last minute. Step 5, put the rota out. Put the rota out and see how it lands. And make sure that it's up in enough places, not just one copy in one staff room. Maybe you've got different floors and you need to put them in the care offices, maybe put it in the admin office as well as the staff room. Just make sure that that rota is clearly accessible everywhere so everybody gets to see it. And step 6 is take a step back and listen. As my granddaughter says, get your listening ears on, Grandma, but listen. Listen for the noisy staff that there's no way I'm doing that. If she thinks I'm coming in for Christmas, I'm going out for New Year's Eve, etc. But equally, listen for the quiet staff that are saying absolutely nothing, because sometimes they may have their own agenda that you need to know about. So you've listened, you've observed. Depending how big your service is and depending how many key staff you need to make sure are in, I personally would suggest that you speak to the staff on that you've rotated in for the key days to get a feel for if they're okay about it, or if they're as happy as they can be about it. And if they've got any queries, you're answering them directly. You're opening that communication dialogue so that, again, you're hearing anything. Because step 7, and that's the final step in this 7-step plan, is plan for your contingency. Because as we all know, good managers don't just cross the fingers and hope that it's going to work out. You've put the rota out and you've listened to the feedback, and you can now plan for a potential contingency, which might be additional bank staff, tweaking some of the rotas, speaking to certain staff who may be willing to move it around, using agency if needed, factoring in yourself if that's going to be a requirement, so that you know as well what you're doing. So hopefully those 7 steps might have helped you get motivated to get that rota out. And don't forget, if you want the quick reference sheet that I use with the 7 steps and a couple of statements that you can put up for your staff clarifying that these are requests and they're not choosing their shifts, then down here on the link, and I'll get it across to you. So good rota creation. Let's get cracking for Christmas. See you all next week. Thank you.